There are two powers in life that every one of us have to deal with every day. The two powers in life that you can never control or stop. The two most difficult components in life to manage is time and change. The key to your future is the successful management of time and change. You can't stop time, you can't stop change. So all you can do with them is manage them. And you become what you are based on how you manage both of them. I want to simplify life for you. You are simply a product of how you use your time and how you manage the changes you've been through so far. And what you become in 10 years from now will be a result of how you manage time and the changes. What did I do with the year that just passed? How much of it did I waste watching television? Being with people who had no interest in success? Being involved in habits that didn't improve my life? What did I spend that year on? Time and change are the raw materials of life. These are two things you can't stop, and they keep moving, they keep happening, and they build your life. Time and change are building blocks. In other words, time and change are the only commodities in life that every human have in common. All of us are given 24 hours every day, and all of us are subject to change every day. So no one is better or less when it comes to time and change. Time also gives you this opportunity for you to make plans, to plan your life. And the secret to life is effective management of time and chance. You cannot control time nor change, but you can plan the way you use them. Successful people are simply people who effectively planned how they use time. Someone said, if you aim at nothing, you will never miss. Planning creates bullseyes. It creates destinies. It creates targets. Without a plan, you are just shooting in the wind. Don't allow another year be a year of just shooting in the wind.
I mean, really, how many years ago did you come up with what you could and couldn't do in your life? How many years ago? Most people, if they really look at how they're living their life today, it's based on a set of standards, a set of beliefs that they made choices about 10, 20, 30 or more years ago. I mean, very often we made decisions in our youth about what to believe, about what we were capable of, about who we are as a person, and that becomes the glass ceiling, if you will, that controls us. I'll give you an example. Look at your physical body. Your physical body today is an absolute reflection of only one thing. Not your goals, not your desires, but your standards. Again, the strongest force in the human personality is this need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves.
And that's what's going to make your death so sad, is that you never live first. You never fully engaged. You never fully studied. You never fully invested in anything or anybody. You want to get something that you are not willing to give. You have never been joined. You just wore the dress, got the plaque, they threw the rice, you took the job, but you've never seen what you could be if you threw your whole self at your dream.
Despite everything that's been written about the importance of goal setting, very few people actually put it into practice. It's always amazed me the way the average guy puts more thought and effort into planning his 2-week vacation than he devotes to planning his life. Challenge creates strong character, and goals represent challenge in its most positive form. Leaders have their personal goals clearly in focus, as well as the goals of the organization. In fact, one of the principal responsibilities of leadership is defining goals for the vast majority of people who aren't able to do it for themselves.
How do you keep the faith? How do you keep your head above water? How do you march against the tide? How do you stand up when everybody around you seems to be falling down? How do you keep firm and solid footing when everything underneath you seems to be slipping away? How do you keep the faith? You've got to be born again. And when you're born again, there's some things you just have to take. Just some things you have to stand up under. There's just some fights you're going to have.
To a great extent, I think perseverance can be learned. And there are some very powerful techniques that can help you learn it. By far the most important tool you can use in developing perseverance is a personal list of challenging, realistic, well-defined, and highly rewarding goals. In recent years, we've overlooked the importance of perseverance to some extent, because we believe so strongly in talent as the true determinant of success. For instance, there are a great many special programs in the schools for so-called gifted children, and these programs can begin as early as the first grade. A child is tested, and he's either gifted or he isn't. He either has talent or he doesn't. Our expectations of him change based on how he does on those tests, and his expectations for himself change also. Of course, there are some educational systems that place a little less faith in talent and a little more faith in long, hard work. And since those systems have been the source of some incredible progress in recent years, I think it's important to look closely at perseverance and how you can get some of that stuff, whatever your gifts and talents may be.
You don't have to lose your faith just because God didn't say yes to what you requested him to do. You don't have to have a nervous breakdown, a pity party, throw in the towel just because you didn't get the job, didn't get the house, didn't get the healing, didn't get what you wanted from the Lord.
You don't always get your goals, but you always get your standards. Everybody in life gets their musts. They don't get their shoulds. Most people have a list of shoulds, don't they? Don't you have a list of the shoulds, things you should do, you should follow through on? I should get into the office earlier. I should be, more confident. Whatever your should list is, when you decide something is a must for you, an absolute must, when you cut off any possible, you say, I'm going to find a way or I'm going to make a way.
Some people get it the first time they hear it. And then some folk got to go home and chew on it and think about it and turn it over in their minds. And sometimes it takes a year, 5 years, 8 years. You can't be impatient with the seed coming up because every seed does not come up at the same time. You have to be patient with the soil. You have to tend it. You have to take care of it. You have to make sure that when the seed is ready to be cast, that the soil is ready to receive it.
The opposite of perseverance is procrastination. Perseverance means you never quit. Procrastination usually means you never get started. Although I consider the inability to finish something to be a form of procrastination. Ask people why they procrastinate, and you'll often hear something like this: I'm a perfectionist. Everything has to be just right before I can get down to work. Not too much noise, no telephone calls interrupting me, no distractions. And of course I have to be feeling well physically too. I can't work when I have a headache. The other end of procrastination, being unable to finish, also has a perfectionist explanation. I'm my own harshest critic. I'm just never satisfied. If all the I's aren't dotted and all the T's aren't crossed, I just can't consider that I'm done. That's just the way I am, and I'll probably never change. A fault is being turned into a virtue. The perfectionist is saying that his standards are just too high for this world. This fault into virtue syndrome is a common defense when people are called upon to discuss their weaknesses. But in the end, it's just a very pious kind of excuse-making. It certainly doesn't have anything to do with what's really behind procrastination.
Only quality people. As you think about your goals and dreams, this is not for everybody. You want to build an organization with only quality people. Not people who need more, but people who want more. You want to surround yourself with people that are hungry. People that are hungry are willing to do the things today others won't do in order to have the things tomorrow others won't have. If you do what is easy, always looking for a way to give yourself a pass, to let yourself off the hook, to do what everybody else is doing, a job, the journey of the broke. If you do what is easy, your life will be hard. But there's something in you that says, you know, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore.
There is an old person down inside of you that's dependent on you to be smart. It's the person you're going to be 30, 40 years from now. Do not disappoint that person by being foolish through the strongest years of your life. And then when your back is out and your knees are swollen and you can't move around, now you're out there going to get your grind on now?
The basis of procrastination could be fear of failure. That's what extreme perfectionism really is once you take a hard look at it. What's the difference whether you're afraid of being less than perfect or afraid of anything else? You're still paralyzed by fear. What's the difference whether you never start or never finish? You're still stuck. You're still going nowhere. You're still overwhelmed by whatever task is before you. You're still allowing yourself to be dominated by a negative vision of the future in which you see yourself being criticized or laughed at or written out of town on a rail or punished. Of course, this negative vision of the future is really a mechanism that allows you to do nothing. It's a very convenient mental tool.
Commitment means standing up for your life. It means honoring yourself. It means beginning to say and to see and recognize your alignment and oneness with the universe, and that you are a channel for life to express through. And we short-circuit it with anger. We short-circuit it with fear. We short-circuit it by being lazy or apathetic or giving up easily. Why? We say, oh, it's too hard, it's too hard. We don't challenge our spirit. Ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing as powerful as the human spirit. You can't destroy it. You can pervert it, but you can't destroy. So when you begin to say, what is it that I want to leave? What contribution that I want to begin to make? What difference do I want to make in life? What chances I need to take? What fears do I need to step on? What risks do I need to begin to embrace? You can either live your dreams or live your fears. You have got to get to a point where you say, I'm sick and tired of living like this. There's got to be more. That's when people go out and strike out on their dreams.
Well, I'm going to tell you how to overcome procrastination. I'm going to show you how to turn procrastination into perseverance. The first principle is break it down. No matter what you're trying to accomplish, whether it's writing a book or climbing a mountain or painting a house, the key to achievement is your ability to break down the task into manageable pieces and knock them off one at a time. Focus on accomplishing what's right in front of you at this moment and ignore what's off in the distance someplace. Substitute real-time positive thinking for negative future visualization. That's the first all-important technique for bringing an end to procrastination. Procrastination won't be a problem because the task is now so small that fear won't kick in. And it all begins with those 3 words. Break it down.
What is the vision for your life? What are the ideas and the dreams for your life? What are you supposed to be doing? Who are you? What are your gifts and talents? What is your ultimate destiny and your goals? God will never give you something somebody else is supposed to have.
When I'm in a storm, I'm trying to gain control. But God's message to all of us whenever we feel like we are in a storm is not to keep control, but to keep courage. You keep courage and God will take control. He's going to get you through this storm. You just got to keep courage.
My second technique for defeating procrastination is also only 3 words long. Write it down. You're now going to be writing about the present, just as you experience it every day. Instead of describing the things that you want to do or the places you want to go, You're going to describe what you actually do with your time, and you're going to keep a written record of the places you actually go. You're going to keep a diary of your activities, and you're going to be amazed by the distractions, detours, and downright wastes of time that you come up with during the course of a day. All of these get in the way of achieving your goals. What else do you have to do to gain the benefits of this extremely powerful productivity technique? Nothing. You don't have to do anything else at all. It's just a process for making yourself aware of how you actually spend your time. You will naturally and effortlessly begin to reorganize your life. Perhaps that seems like too much to believe, but it's true. This is how you get yourself started. This is how you put an end to procrastination.
Freedom lies in the courage and the discipline of daring to attempt what others fear.
So I want you to look yourself in the mirror today. I want you to think about your life. I want you to appreciate your life. And as best as you can, because I know it's easier said than done, because we all do it at times, I want you to stop comparing your life. And then when you do compare your life, I want you to have a fact that makes you stop comparing your life. I want you to have a fact about that and make you stop comparing your life, because the more we scroll, the more I feel like a lot of people start to feel less about themselves. A lot of people start feeling more depressed.
Do you understand? Negativity, you can protect yourself from negativity. And that's what stops most people, negative thoughts. It's a real simple exercise to do. I do it every morning before I walk out the door. So I walk out as a positive person. You know, I get tired sometimes because I get mentally drained from my job at times. But to coach your mind from negativity is with one simple thing: gratitude. Gratitude erases negativity.
You want to walk in security? You want to walk in who you are? You got to decide who you are. You got to define who you are. You got to put some value and some worth on who you are.
What do we say? But there always be tomorrow. Oh no. There's no guarantees you're going to show up tomorrow. There are a lot of people who were here yesterday that they're not here today. Oh, you can wait, but you know what Abraham Lincoln said? Well, good things might come to those who wait, but only the things that have been left over by those who hustle. You deserve much more than that. So take it head on, begin to explore. Here's something else. Decide to do it now. Decide whatever you want to do, that you are now going to become actively involved right now, exploring the possibilities for you.
Don't be a slave to views. Don't be a slave to followers. Be a slave to likes. Don't be a slave to popularity. Don't be a slave to any of those things. Because at the end of the day, the result of that is going to be this. You're going to die, okay? Because we're all going to die one day, unfulfilled. Because you lived a life full of pleasing everybody else. You lived a life full of making everybody else happy, except yourself.
Most of you, you're so consumed with everything that's going on in the world. This is the reasons you haven't figured out your own life yet. Every blog, every website, every tweet, every Instagram post, any and everything that's going on in the world, you are so consumed with everything that's going on in the world, you're ignoring your own world. You can never shine trying to sit on someone else's sun.
Find out who you're associating with. If those people add something to you, if they give you something in return, or is it all just a give and take, meaning like they just take and then you give? That's a bad relationship, man. Get the negative energy out of life. These people that you're around, they're always complaining and everything else. They're taking part of your soul. You only have so much to give every single day. Why waste it on that, guys? You gotta love yourself in order to love somebody else, guys. You gotta be whole and happy with who you are if you can never help somebody else out. People say, oh, it's selfish to just care about yourself. Well, if you need some fixing and reworking, it's not selfish, because you can get yourself better and then be able to really lend a hand in an honest way to somebody to really help them out.
Here's the key to the good life. Learn to put everything you've got into everything you do. Whatever you are doing, pour it on. It will quickly open up into opportunity or quickly disclose to you that you ought to be doing something else. Here's the next attitude disease: indecision, mental paralysis. The guy can't make up his mind and it becomes a disease. Pretty soon he knows he's got it. A life full of adventure is a life full of many decisions. The ones that turn out to be wrong give you better experience to make better decisions. So don't see how many decisions you can get out of, see how many you can get into. That's where the adventure is. So shake off this disease, indecision. The next one is doubt. And one of the worst is self-doubt. There are many, but that's one of the worst. The guy doubts himself, doubts if he can do that well, doubts if he can make that much, doubts if he can accomplish all that. A chronic, excellent self-doubter. You can imagine what damage that does to your future. So here's the key: turn this coin over and become a believer. And there's many things to believe in. One of the majors is yourself. The understanding of self-worth is the beginning of progress.
How do you keep the faith? How do you keep your head above water? How do you march against the tide? How do you stand up when everybody around you seems to be falling down? How do you keep firm and solid footing when everything underneath you seems to be slipping away? How do you keep the faith? You've got to be born again. And when you're born again, there are some things you just have to take. Just some things you have to stand up under. There's just some fights you're going to have.
Instead of just looking in the mirror and saying, you know what, my biggest concern, my greatest competition is you. Right there, the person in the mirror that you see every single day, because I refuse to make the world happy and I'm dying inside. Any gain is not worth losing yourself. Period.
Nothing happens without leadership. Nothing happens without leadership. Nothing changes without leadership. Nothing develops without someone taking leadership. Nothing improves in any situation without leadership. Nothing is corrected without leadership. If something is not right in an environment, someone has to emerge and take the leadership.
I don't think I'm good enough. These are thoughts placed from the outside inside your mind. The minute you acknowledge that, that's not my thought, that's someone else's. You begin to eliminate, I call it like scratching the CD. When I begin to have negative self-talk, negative thoughts, I literally picture an old record player or a DVD and I just scratch it.
If you're working on your dream, sure there are going to be times you're going to want to give up. Sure there'll be times in life I'll knock you down and catch you on the blind side. But the challenge is to hold on. And if you hold on tenaciously, I say the universe is on your side. A way will come out of nowhere. Someone will step forward and help you. Just a blessing. Who are you? I don't know, but thank you for coming.
Nothing advances without leadership. Nothing succeeds without leadership. We are always being led by someone, whether we think so or not.
I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good looking enough, I'm not fast enough, strong enough, I'm not prepared enough. Once they enter, that's not my thought, that's something someone gave me when I was a kid, and I scratch it. And I literally say to myself, scratch it, scratch it. And over time, it's like a DVD or a CD or a record player. That thought can't be played again in your recorder when you scratch it enough times. So I literally picture scratching and I say scratch it.
You know, they tell you that the best way to eat is to eat just little every couple hours rather than to eat big meals and then go long hours without eating. Constantly, just kind of nibble your way through the day, eating the right food that keeps your blood sugar level and all things like that. Same is true with truth. If you're constantly thinking about truth, it's going to renew your mind. It's going to change your mind.
So when you fear life, you are malfunctioning. So I'm afraid of nothing. I'm telling you, literally, I'm afraid of nothing. That makes me dangerous. A fearless man is a dangerous man. I'm not afraid of death. And that's the highest threat you can give me. And I'm not afraid of death. And you'll find that all true leaders have no fear of death. As a matter of fact, they have an affair with death.
You have to recognize if you're trying to eliminate all risks from your life, what you're actually doing is eliminating all possibility from your life. You're trying to collapse the universe of outcomes such that what you've lost is freedom. You've lost the ability to act because you're afraid.
Patience. There's a type of person for whom everything is undertaken out of desire to achieve a goal. They exercise in order to get in shape. They start a business in order to make money. I'm sure that some of these people are very successful, and they are certainly highly organized. A person of truly strong character sees success as an adventure, not as a point with an estimated time of arrival. Impatient thinking can lead a person into some very big mistakes. When you are always looking somewhere else, whether it's down the road or up toward the top of the mountain or off toward the left field fence, when you're looking off in the distance like that, you often miss what's under your very own nose. That means the pleasure and fun of living which come in the here and now get overlooked for something that not only isn't here yet, but might never arrive. True patience is more than just a waiting game. Patience doesn't mean you sit around hoping for something to happen. Patience is not a passive quality. Sometimes patience can mean doing something else entirely, thinking about another venture, taking off in a different direction while you give events a chance to run their course.
And if you really take the time to think about what you're afraid of, you're going to realize that fear is not only irrelevant, it is a tremendous advantage. Fear is the ultimate tool to leverage pressure on yourself to succeed. When you're afraid of failing, when you're afraid of people laughing at you, when you're afraid of losing everything, guess what happens? You do the fucking work to make that not happen. Fear is a tremendous tool. And not only should it be embraced, you have to learn to use it. Being afraid is the best fucking thing you could ever have for yourself when it comes to turning that into energy, to have drive, to have ambition, to have progress in your life. But you've got to take that first step. You've got to take that first action. And if you don't ever take that first action, fear will paralyze you to a point of you becoming nothing, being nothing, standing for nothing, and basically being irrelevant your whole entire life. You know how you get fucking confidence? By fucking attacking your fear and overcoming your fear. There's a big misconception out there that people who are successful are not afraid. But I disagree. I think people who are successful are the most afraid because they're going to run the hardest, they're going to run the fastest, and they're going to be the ones who are going to take every single action that they have to take to make sure they get where they need to be, and at the very least, that they don't go back to where they were.
Credit goes to our awesome patrons who make videos like this one possible. Consider joining them to support our work. You can also support us by subscribing to our channel and clicking the bell button to get notified when our new videos are released. And as always, thank you for watching.
Get free from people.
The day that you allow the opinions of the outside world to dictate the way you feel about yourself, it is the beginning of the end of you living a blessed and self-loving, secure life. Love yourself. Love yourself. Believe in yourself, independent of the validation of the world. Have opinions and feelings about yourself, independent of the feedback. Why you gotta have somebody calling you beautiful every day in order for you to feel beautiful? Do you believe that you're beautiful? Or do you only believe you're beautiful when other people say that you're beautiful? I'm just asking. Self-love is the cure to self-hate. If you make it to the end of this video, I want you to write, self-love is the cure to self-hate. These are the type of qualities that I'm going and have been instilling in my daughter. There is no man that you could ever meet, Shayla, that can make you feel more amazing than what you're supposed to feel about yourself. Nobody wants to be alone. But if you show up empty, as an empty shell, and you're expecting this man to fulfill you and fill you up with all of the love that doesn't exist, because as soon as he leaves, you're depleted, you're empty, and you have nothing left for yourself again. Never rely or depend on anybody to fulfill your heart. I love me even if you stop loving me. I'm amazing when you don't think I'm amazing. You can say the nastiest, meanest, evilest shit that you could ever conjure up. It will never change the way I feel about myself. I'm telling you, that's the way I live my life. That's how I feel about me.
Very powerful when you can say, I like who I am. I feel good about myself. I'm proud of who God made me to be. Most people can't do this. They say, I would feel good about myself if I didn't have these weaknesses. I would be happy with who I am if I was a better parent, if I wasn't so jealous, if I was more patient. I would hold my head up high if I hadn't made these mistakes. There will always be some reason why you shouldn't feel good about who you are. The accuser will make sure to remind you of something that you're not doing right, some way that you failed. If you're going to live in victory, you have to put your foot down and say, that's it. I'm done being against myself.
The day that you start living your life according to everybody else's opinion is the beginning of the end. Most of y'all don't actually know your self-worth. You don't know your self-value. So you're like a vulnerable little child. You're shaking, and it's like, everybody loves me this week, so I love me this week. Next week, it drops. So now you're running around insecure and not loving yourself, sad and depressed, based on the feedback, the responses, and the energy that the rest of the world is giving you. That you allow your self-worth to be based on what other people think of you is the beginning of the end. I love me. So the day that you decide to stop loving me, I'm not gonna love myself any less. I believe in me. If you stop believing in me, I'm not gonna believe in myself any less. If you believe that I'm irrelevant and that I don't mean anything to the world, that no one is checking for me, because you think or believe that about me, it doesn't mean that I'm gonna believe it about myself.
You spend your life performing for a crowd, it'll kill you. And you're like, I'm good. I'm not a singer. I don't perform for people. It's gotten much deeper than that now. It's the feeling that we get when we start offering ourselves up in a form that is more impressive to people, but is not authentic to us. It's the mode that we all get tempted to get into when we start trying to bring a version of ourselves to a situation that we think will make a good impression. Sometimes you can really be functioning in a role, but deep down feel like you are not really capable and you are not really worthy of the role. And so when people give you a compliment, you can't even receive it because it feels like they're talking about somebody else, because you know so much about yourself that you explain away your strengths and wallow in your weaknesses. It's called imposter syndrome or fraudulence complex.
That peace that we're after lies somewhere beyond personality, beyond the perception of others, beyond invention and disguise, even beyond effort itself. Your need for acceptance can make you invisible in this world. Don't let anything stand in the way of the light that shines through this form. Risk being seen in all of your glory. Our eyes are not viewers, they're also projectors. that are running a second story over the picture that we see in front of us all the time. Fear is writing that script, and the working title is, I'll Never Be Enough. And don't worry if you miss your cue, because there's always doors opening. They keep opening. And when I say life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, I'm just making a conscious choice to perceive challenges as something beneficial so that I can deal with them in the most productive way. You'll come up with your own style. That's part of the fun. Oh, and why not take a chance on faith as well?
You can protect yourself from negativity. And that's what stops most people, negative thoughts. You can coat your mind from negativity. It's a real simple exercise to do. I do it every morning before I walk out the door. So I walk out as a positive person. You know, I get tired sometimes. That's different from being negative. But to coach your mind from negativity is with one simple thing, gratitude. Gratitude erases negativity. If you wake up in the morning and you start having negative thoughts, man, this ain't my day. I'm tripping, I just don't feel myself. Every time you feel, in the middle of the day, if you feel yourself doing that, stop, just stop for a second. And start going over in your mind everything you have to be grateful for. Not everything you want, everything you already have. Because what you have is substantial. The fact that you woke up, that's another blessing. The fact that you can see, think, reason, that's another blessing. The fact that you have an opportunity to get it right is another blessing. The fact that you have any measure of health, that's another blessing. And I'm just talking to you, I don't even know you. I could give you 50 things you ought to be grateful for right now. I don't even know you. Start coating your mind with gratitude. It'll change everything for you.
It's something in me that says, I need to do this. So that's the first voice. But we've trained ourselves to ignore this voice and listen to the second voice that I believe is a collection of the average society. It's what we learned. It's the practical voice, the should voice. Whenever you say I should do, where are you getting that from? What society says. Well, we forget society's kind of crazy. There's a lot of unhappy people there, a lot of addictions, a lot of stuckness. Like, why are we using them as the bellwether that we should get our advice from, right? So this first voice goes, I think we should do this. And we go right to this voice that says why we shouldn't. So for instance, there's many people that feel guilty about something. If you actually go to your heart, you can understand at a true level why you could have done something like that. Everyone can. But what causes our pain is trying to get society to understand why we did something. But the collective society isn't at a consciousness where they've forgiven themselves for anything. So there's a lot of judgment you'll look at in yourself if you look at yourself through society's eyes.
The labor, the work. Some people go for affirmations, but see that I do believe in affirmations, but here's the key on affirmations, and that is to affirm the truth. Affirm the truth. If you're broke, best thing to affirm is, I am broke. You put that up on the refrigerator where you can see it every day. It'll drive you to sign up for a class to learn a skill so that this doesn't happen anymore. Now, if that doesn't do it, reaffirm and put this up there. I'm 40 and broke. That's a lot more alarming. Something might be wrong with your philosophy, your policy, your plan, and your strategy. So, affirm, yes, but always affirm the truth. Here's what the old prophet said. The truth will set you free. Now, here's the freedom of the truth. Number one, freedom of the truth to correct old errors in judgment. That's the freedom of the truth, because if you don't speak the truth, then you're likely not to correct the errors in judgment. If something's wrong, but you say, hey, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, how are you going to correct the errors in judgment that made it wrong? So you can't say it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, and finally it turns out to be fine. Say, no. The only way to go from wrong to fine is not by affirmation. The way to go from wrong to fine is to figure out where the errors in judgment were by speaking the truth. Something's wrong here, finding out what's wrong, making the changes. Now it can go from wrong to fine. Here's a good phrase. Affirmation without discipline is the beginning of delusion. Now here's what else the truth does. First, it sets you free to correct old errors in judgment. Here's what else it does. Helps you to set up new, easy disciplines. To turn wrong into right. To turn lack into prosperity. To turn skepticism into faith. But in order to turn wrong into right, we must speak the truth. Because only the truth will set you free. Free to correct an error in judgment. Because here's the formula for failure and here's the formula for success. The formula for failure, number one, a few errors in judgment repeated every day. We call that the formula for failure. A few errors in judgment repeated every day. Now, why would you repeat an error in judgment the second day? Reason, failure doesn't occur at the end of the first day. If it did, it would be helpful, because then you wouldn't do that anymore. But errors in judgment are so subtle because they don't usually show their results until for a while. But a few errors in judgment repeated every day, and sure enough, you're way off course. Now, here's all you got to do to turn that around. A few simple disciplines practiced every day, starts to create success. Not at the end of the first day. The first day is the end of a new beginning. The first day. That you've started a new track, that you've started a new direction. So we must all speak the truth. So affirm the truth. Yes, affirm God is good. Yes, affirm life is full of possibilities. Yes, affirm all the truthful possibilities. But you don't need to try to trick yourself into saying something is okay when it isn't okay. Some people say every day in every way I'm getting better and better. And if that's not true, see, then we call that delusion. If it's not true, if it is true, then it's wonderful, it's fabulous, we should celebrate. But if it's not true, every day in every way I'm getting better and better, see, if that's not true, then it is an affirmation that's destructive.
Trying to prove people wrong or right about you is a cheap level of motivation, and it will wear out. In other words, not the lack of it, it's not the best type. People say, well, hey, Tom Brady, 6th-round draft pick. I mean, he's constantly trying to prove them that they picked the wrong guys. You think he's become the greatest football player of all time because he's trying to prove people from 20 years ago wrong about where he was drafted. You don't get elite performance. Tom Brady is where he is because he sets standards for himself and has massive goals and ambitions for himself, not to prove other people wrong.
Yeah.
And so I think it's low-level motivation. I do it too. It's the symptom of the same disease. So proving your family wrong or right is a symptom of the same disease, which is you are still obsessed with what other people are thinking about you and doing things that make you happy, that enrich you, that fulfill your soul. And so the irony about spending your life worrying about what everybody else thinks about you is that those people will never be thought about after they're dead. So they spend their life obsessing with what everyone thinks about them, only to die and have no one ever remember them. Because people that are so obsessed with what other people think about them never really ever fulfill their potential. So once you can drop that addiction, whether it's friends, strangers, or your parents, and you begin to do things that fulfill you, that make you happy, that change other people's lives by your contribution, now you can be remembered. Now your life echoes into eternity, even if it was a quiet life.
So just affirm the truth. The truth is I lack some skills to multiply my income by 10, which I wish to do in the future. I need to learn the skills. Affirm that you don't have the skills, so that it'll drive you to get the skills because you want to multiply your income by 10. Yes, it is true. All things are possible to the believer. It is true. Errors in judgment lead to devastation. We don't just need the truth, we need the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Here's what we don't need: delusion. You don't need delusion in order to try to make something out of nothing. All you need is this simple little formula to imagine, because imagination is so powerful. It's the beginning of creating all things that we see. Then faith to believe it's possible. It says what? With faith, everything's possible. Without faith, nothing is possible. So that's a good study to make. Creating faith to believe it's possible. But now we deposit faith and imagination into muscle, into discipline. Michelangelo was a genius, but it wasn't his genius that created this famous sculpture. But his genius was so strong and he believed in it so thoroughly that he picked up the chisel and the hammer. And it was the muscle and the chisel and the hammer that created the sculpture. And without the discipline, there would be no sculpture. But if you take your genius, if you take your ideas and your inspiration and your excitement and translate it into muscle, if you want good health, you can study every book there is, and you can believe that it's possible to be healthy. But until you fall on the floor and start doing the push-ups, until you jog around the block, right? Until you start working on your good health, working and laboring. Labor pains, we call it. So add this to your repertoire of good ideas. New life only comes from labor. Now, some people try to create it with affirmation, but it doesn't work. New life only comes from labor. That's why we should devote most of our time to labor, because it's the miracle creator. It says 6 days labor and 1 day rest. Don't get those numbers mixed up. And here's why. It isn't rest that creates the miracle. It's labor that creates the miracle. And you just go right down the list. Labor creates the miracle of a career. Labor creates the miracle of a hotel. Labor creates the miracle of a fortune. You can have plenty of miracle. You don't need to engage in delusion. You just engage in reality. And here's what's real. Imagination, supported by faith, invested in labor, works miracles. The miracle of a relationship. The labor of my language produces the miracle of sight. Being able to see things you couldn't see before. If I labor well enough with the vocabulary and language that I've got, describing the value of my own ideas translated for you, maybe it'll help you to see something today, tomorrow, that you've never seen before. So the labor of my language, the work, and lecturing is hard work. They say 1 hour of intense lecturing is like digging ditches for 8 hours. The intensity and the energy and the vitality it takes, right? You just become almost exhausted sometimes in laboring with words to get your vocabulary out there where it touches someone's consciousness so that they can see something they've never seen before. And we call that miracle stuff. I don't know how it works. You don't need to know how it works. All you need is a simple analysis like this. But the labor takes the idea, supported by faith, translate it into labor, and it starts producing all kinds of miracle. So now you can understand that you are a miracle worker. Would a miracle worker sleep late? I doubt it. Unique thing about genius. Genius has no sense of time. It's amazing. If you could have met Michelangelo and, you get there and it's like 11 o'clock, it's like midnight. And you said to Michelangelo, isn't it a little late? And Michelangelo would say, late? What's this late? What does that mean, late? I don't understand late. To a genius, it's not late. To the average person, it's getting late. But to a genius, it's not late. Say, well, Michelangelo, I'll meet you here in the morning and watch you get started. And you got to get there at 4 o'clock. You say, it's really early. And Michelangelo says, early? What's early? I don't understand this. What's this early? It doesn't compute early. Not to a genius. Because the genius is consumed by the finished product. And he devotes his imagination and his faith translated into muscle to produce the sculpture. Now you can do that with your health. Health is just as valuable as the sculpture that inspires the world. Your own education, your own future, your own career, your own relationships, building a hotel, creating success, making a fortune. It's all part of the same scheme of imagination, faith, supported by labor. And now all things are possible to those that believe. Wow.